Hey guys, Flabaliki here today and welcome to City Skylines, where today we're doing a bit of a challenge. We're seeing how much of a city we can fit within one tile. I'm going to call it the Sim City 2013 challenge. No, I'm not going to call it that because that's just not a great title. But, you know, you got to throw shade where it's due. So I just wanted to try this out because I believe I saw Biffa. He did this as well. He was building in one tile, and I was like, you know what, that looks like a lot of fun. Like, I want to see how much we can actually do. And then not only that, after we build the city, I want to see, you know, how the traffic is working and how well it's actually all gonna flow, which for the most part of this video, the traffic's actually not that bad. It gets really bad when we start doing high density, obviously. Obviously, all the low density is fine, there's no issues. Then, as soon as we start making all these skyscrapers everywhere, and then they start leveling up because they're good, we end up with a lot of issues. But the backbone of any sort of good city is going to be the connections to the highway. So I wanted to start off with this. Obviously, I'm not using any mods for unlocking stuff or for money. I'm obviously using mods for like design and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So like aligning roads and using Move It and Traffic Manager, all that. I'm using all that stuff, but I'm not using any like the unlocking mods or anything like that. So that means that I'm starting off with these roads rather than actual highway roads. And my highway on and off ramps had to be like regular roads because that's just the way it was. So it starts off a little sketchy, then I update it later. I started off with like sort of a roundabout interchange because I thought that was probably going to last the longest. And actually, near the end, it's actually still holding up pretty well. It's pretty bad when you get off the roundabout, but the roundabout bit is actually fine. So I'll give you a tour at the end of this video because obviously this whole thing is going to be a time lapse until the end. Then we'll sort of have a tour around the city and I can show you what we've done, where we're at, what we got to do. There's still more to be done after this. Like I said, after we've filled out the tile, I actually want to go ahead and see if we can make the traffic like really good because that's a pretty big issue. Now, obviously maximizing one tile of a city would just be doing like perfect laid out grids everywhere. For the most part, this is grids, but you can also see that, I did a diagonal road in there and I'm just doing slightly different things just because I didn't really want it to be all a straight grid. Like I wanted it to also kind of look good, you know, like I didn't want it because if it was all just a grid, it's a little bit boring and that. So this map was actually quite good. So with the highway connections, a lot of the maps, you just have like an interchange that just pokes into a tile and you just have like two roads and that's it. And you have to connect to that. But this particular map, which I'm not actually sure which one this is, I have to check it. This particular map actually has the highway running through the entire tile. It just goes directly straight across it. And I'm like, that is actually perfect for being able to just do a couple of connections because that means we don't have to take up any additional room or we don't have to try and unlock a highway before we can build one. And that was kind of an important point because you don't unlock the highway for quite some time. And if we had to wait for that and then go back and build a highway through everything, that probably would have been less than ideal. So I think it actually worked out quite well. I think this is a good map for it. Another thing I was looking for is there had to be a water source somewhere in the starting tile as well, because with this, especially when you start off again, we need a water pump and the sewage outflow pipe. So this particular map it's on the side of a river, but it only takes up a small portion of the tile, but the river is still much bigger than that tile, bigger than that bit we have available. So it meant there was a lot of water flow so that we can use it for the entire city without going outside of our tile and also dump all the sewage in there without an issue. So this map was actually really good for it. And I'm seeing if I can figure out which one it was right now. I'm just having a look. But yeah, it actually, because I actually tried a different one before this, and I actually went bankrupt from it because I built too much stuff too quickly. I know what I did. Last time I actually built out I did a really long road to the other side of the tile because the one I started on originally, we had the highway just poking in, just coming in the edge from an interchange like a lot of the maps do. And then the river and the water source is on the other side of the tile. So it meant you had to do a road all the way down there or power lines all the way across. And that actually ended up bankrupting me. So that didn't actually work out too well. Here we go. So the map is Arid Plains and it is I think it's from Mass Transit, by the looks of it. So if you got Mass Transit DLC, the map is called Arid Plains if you want to try it out. This one I found is pretty good as far as default in-game maps go. I mean, there might be some better ones. I mean, I'm sure you could actually just make a better map in the game if you wanted to, but I was just using ones that already existed. Now, a lot of what I'm building here as well, like I've got all these one-way roads. I'm trying to... Okay, there's a couple of things going through my mind when building this city. Is I want like a realistic road layout in the sense that I'm not just gonna do just weird roads for the sake of traffic. Like I want to, it's obviously a grid, and I want to work around that. So obviously we got some one-way roads, we've got large avenue roads as well that are going to be the backbone. And then I'm trying to, on the larger roads, trying not to do as many intersections as on the smaller ones, just because I knew down the line that's probably going to be what we want to do. Oh yeah, this so that I guess the one downside to this highway is it's like raised up above everything except for this part of the map where it just goes down and then there's just a random interchange there, and I'm like, okay, well that's got to go. And actually I build the worst interchange here, and this is gonna, I leave it there for the whole video, and I do change, oh no, I don't change it, but I do want to change it at some point, because so my idea here's my thinking. I was like, okay, so we're probably going to have a lot of traffic using this one because we've only got 2 interchanges in this city, one on this side, one on the other side. So I was like, okay, instead of doing, having all the traffic coming out on one side or coming through one interchange, why don't we just separate the interchanges to the different side of the highway? So if you want to, come off of this direction or enter in this direction, you have to be on this side. And while that sounds like a good idea in theory, it does mean that you do send all the traffic to both sides of this highway. And I was like, I thought it'd be a good idea to split up the traffic. And it's not particularly bad. It does work, but it does mean that this interchange actually takes up way more space than it probably needs to. I mean, actually, I guess I could just compact this design a bit more, but it's just, anyway, it's the point is not great. It does work. I did have to mess around with it a few times, and hopefully there's some people just doing U-turns onto the highway again. Stupid AI, look at them. It's like you have to hold their hands to tell them where to go in this game, I swear. Anyway, so... And oh yeah, something else important I tried to do in the city, because again, like I said, I want the traffic to be good. I want the city to work. It should be fully functional. I have made sure to try and split up the commercial, the industry, and actually the residentials. The residential's most of this map, so that's not really split up. That's mostly all joined. But I've tried to evenly distribute the commercial and the industrial throughout the city, so it's not all clumped in one space. We essentially have 2 industrial districts, one near both of the interchanges. So, I mean, the industry should be close to the highway. They should have easy access to it. So they're basically at the on and off ramps of both interchanges. Then commercial is evenly spread throughout the city so that people don't have to commute too far to get to the closest shop. And then, so actually throughout this whole build, there's no public transport in this place either. That's something that I completely leave out because... Number one, I didn't want to start putting buses around because the amount of times they're changing the roads. I'm just constantly building in this. So if I put down a bus line, that would have to change every 5 minutes. And then I didn't want to do trams because, again, a similar thing to the bus line, although they could easily go on the avenues and it wouldn't change as much. But the problem with that is we're going to have a lot of traffic, and having trams on the road will also just sort of add to the traffic. They're sometimes separate, on an avenue they will be in the middle, but they still have to cross all the intersections. And if we end up with a lot of intersections, the trams are gonna have to be waiting, and then trains, they just take up way too much space, so that's out. So really the only solution we have left is doing subways, and that's exactly what we do near the end of this time lapse. We build a subway system throughout the entire city. We design it almost like a wheel with spokes. In the middle, we have the, the hub, and then we have spokes coming out from it in all directions, and then we have an outer sort of loop around, which you'll see a little bit later on, and it works pretty well. But my point of saying that was, up until that point, literally everyone is driving or walking, and let me tell you, there are so many people that walk around this city, which is good. It means everything's pretty accessible. Nothing's that far away. How big are the tiles in this game? Are they a kilometer by a kilometer, or is it bigger than that? How big are tiles in cities? Skylines. Let's use our good old friend Google. They'll know. One tile is 1.92 kilometers, so nearly 2 kilometers across. So yeah, I guess to be fair, it's not that far to walk anywhere in the city then. If it's only 2 kilometers across. I mean, you'd probably have to walk a little bit further just because there's no direct route everywhere. You'd have to walk through a grid. So it'd probably be a little further. I'd probably be inclined to say nothing is further than a 3 kilometer walk, which is it's a beefy walk, but it's not like impossible. So people do walk everywhere, which is great. Now I do. There's a few things in this that I'm like trying to figure out, because obviously everything we place, we ideally want we want to take up the least amount of space. We want to be as space efficient as possible, including stuff like, well, at the moment we've got a giant garbage dump there. That disappears because we couldn't get the incineration plant or the recycling plants, so that we had to use that to start off with. And same with the cemeteries. We had to start off with those, and then I go ahead and remove them and make sure that they're not taking up the space anymore, because we can get crematoriums and do it that way. Oh, by the way, this city has like the biggest the death waves in this, because obviously I'm zoning all residential at the same time, and then everyone dies at the same time, and that was it's a little bit of an issue later on. I mean, it was just an issue in the sense that there were so many dead people, but it didn't actually ruin the city or anything, so it was okay. It was no worries. And the other thing is, I could have basically just laid out a grid over the entire city at the very start, but I think there's a few issues with that. Number one, it would be probably too expensive and might actually bankrupt me, because like I said, I did try this once before. Like I did try before this and actually went bankrupt because I had too many roads, because I spent too much money on it. So that would probably be an issue. But then also, it doesn't really make sense to do it that way, in a sense, because a lot of the stuff that I'm building out, I'm sort of, the roads are, like, even though it is a grid, a lot of the roads I am sort of moving about slightly. Like you can see there's some diagonal bits here and there, and I'm not actually sure where everything is going yet, especially with like these industrial areas, because I can't put industrial too close to residential, otherwise then, they're going to be polluted. So we kind of have to plan it out as we go, rather than just going it down all in one. Also, it's more fun this way. I think it's more fun to see the city take shape, rather than just be like, okay, here it is. And then, because if I built all the roads and then just zoned it all, it'd literally just be a waiting game. Oh, and the other thing is, so the other reason I wanted to play with like unlock all, like that mod turned off, was that I actually did want to try and organically grow this city, in the sense that we start off with low density, then we have to hit the targets before we can even start zoning high density. And then it becomes a game of redeveloping and redesigning a lot of the city, which is actually really fun. And that's something that I really enjoy doing. So the idea is, this is all low density, and it's eventually going to become all high density. And then when we do that, that's when we start running into like the traffic issues and all that. And then you have to like solve all those issues with what we've already got, and minimum destruction of what we've built, preferably minimum destruction of what we've built. And I'm just adding a few more lanes to these highways, just because obviously we have only the two entrances and exits, like the two interchanges. So I wanted to make sure we had like turn off lanes or exit lanes separate from the traffic that is heading on through, so that it doesn't so they don't do stuff like that. Why do they do that? So that they could get the flow going a little bit nicer through the area. And you can see like that interchange, like I was saying before, like it works, like it works pretty well, but it's not the best. It takes up a bit too much space, and I think that's something that we need to rebuild and redevelop as we go through. So I'm just checking out the flow there, because there's a lot of weird stuff going on. You can see actually right now how many people are walking. Oh yeah, that roundabout like real glitched out. That one glitched out real bad. I couldn't get it to work. I was like, no. Jeez. There's actually a huge amount of people walking around the city. And I guess that's probably because, number one, like I said, everything's closed. And number two, there's no public transport. So everyone's just going for a walk. And then I just made it impossible for everyone to walk through there, because I've made those roundabouts out of highway roads. So sucked in. So the city's coming along pretty well. Just doing a little bit more zoning around the place. And where are we up to? We're up to only, surprisingly, 8,000 people at this point. Only 8,000 people, and we're like more than halfway through the time lapse. So most of the population comes from when we change into high density, because obviously houses, you'll have like up to 5 citizens per house or something like that. Like, it's not that much. But as soon as we start getting the high density... Oh, this is something else that I wanted to make sure, that we had good services throughout the city, which is actually pretty easy when the city is small, because you don't need that many. Here we go. This is where we start developing. Now, I don't know if I had a mod on here that prevents this, but because I think I might too, because I'm pretty sure like when you dezone something and then rezone it, those buildings should just disappear. And I did disable the mods, because I have like no abandonment mods and stuff that prevents buildings from upgrading, and I did actually turn them off when I was building the city. So I might have missed one of those mods, But no matter what I did, when I like rezoned a low density place to high density, they never built high density. So I had to end up just destroying the houses so they could rebuild again. But I mean, it worked in the end anyway, so it was all good. I mean, I like the look of all the houses there in the grid, but I'm sorry, they're just too small. So they got to go. Basically, they got to go. And the other important thing is making sure everything is upgraded so we can get the high quality housing. Because I don't actually know if they... I mean, you can let me know in the comments too. Do the higher quality houses hold more people? And by houses, I mean skyscrapers. Do they get bigger and like hold more people? And even if they don't, they will pay more money in tax, so we earn more money. So that's also good. And then we can have better services. So we're like, that's good. All right, so we're up to small city now, 12,000 people. You can see, we in that just like minute or so, we've gone up 4,000. So as soon as we start getting to high density, that's when things actually start going, and we actually start earning. Well, not earning. We start gaining a lot of citizens in the city, which is really, really good. And it's basically just a game of trying to lay out these grids in a way that makes sense. And it does get these grids get a little messy just because essentially what's happening is the avenue roads are slightly wider than the smaller roads, so that means we have to line up the grid with those, and then if they don't line up, then that's why you can see I'm sort of demolishing stuff here again, because I need that road to line up with the others. And I'm also trying to plan out those large avenue roads in locations where I think that would make sense, because obviously not every road needs to be huge, not every road is going to have a lot of traffic going down it, and I'm trying to plan it out that these large roads go to areas that will need that amount of traffic, because not everywhere will. Even with high density, not everywhere is going to need that much stuff. So it's something that I was trying to plan pretty well for, and for the most part, it actually ends up pretty good. The traffic does get heavier later on. I think I think the worst the traffic gets to is like about 70% traffic flow, which is pretty good. It's pretty good. But that can definitely be improved if we spend a little bit more time and just go around and like do a lot of custom intersection stuff, and maybe even remove some intersections and try and redirect some sort of traffic flow that we have in the city. But that's something that we will leave for another day. For this video, we're just sort of building everything up, getting everyone in here, because you see all that middle section is still houses, so they all need to change, and we need to get rid of all the low density commercial. That all needs to change. It all needs to start getting a little bit bigger, and I always have to make sure that we have enough sort of resources like water and sewage. I don't know why I said resources. Facilities? I don't know. Anyway, this industrial area remains a source of contention for a while as well, by the way. Like, I don't know. I do roundabouts here for a bit, and then I decided I didn't like that, and then I do all this other stuff, and then I don't know. It doesn't look good. It's not great. This was probably the hardest area to do. In the end, I think we end up with something pretty good. So not in this. I don't think I record most of it when I mess with the roads later on. But in a minute, we will actually be working on the subway network throughout the city. So, because I actually did a lot of this. So most of this right now is just when I was, playing the game by myself and recording it. Then I actually did a live stream on my Twitch channel a couple of days ago, where I was essentially just, building everything up, trying to manage traffic a little bit, and then building the subway network. But we will see the subway being built here in a second too. But yeah, there was a lot more of just like sort of tedious road building and management that I did on a live stream. If you do want to see that, that is all real time. It's like 4 hours of me just building in this city. Some of it you might have seen here, but I think a lot of it probably not. I mean, a lot of the subway stuff you'll probably see there. So this is where we're going to be building the subway hub, or as I like to call it, the hubway. I've never called it that. I just called it that then. So I downloaded this custom one from the Steam Workshop that has, what is it, like 9 platforms? No, it'd be, if there's, wait, how many different lines are there? I can't say. Oh, there's 8. So it'd be 16 platforms down the bottom. I think there's 8. Oh, no. I don't know. Anyway, 16 or I guess 22 platforms. I think it's 16. Anyway, point is, we're building a spoke system. Like I said before, wheel and spokes. We're having lines that go left to right, up and down, diagonal to diagonal, and then we're having a looping track going around the outside. And I'll tell you what, so many people use this subway. It's really, really good. I was actually quite happy with it. It looks like so messy when you look at the underground view, especially when all the lines are built. Like, it looks okay now because there's only like 2 lines. But once we get the rest of it in there, it is looking beautiful. So essentially, I also did the stations pretty close together because we don't have buses or trams or any of the above ground transportation methods. these are essentially going to replace, like, you know, a bus, for example. So you want to go pretty close. They're usually at most maybe a block or two apart. Like that one there is like a block. They're really close, but if you actually look at the roads, trying to walk between them would be pretty difficult with the amount of intersections you have to try and cross. So even though they're really close, they are actually super popular, and the subway is actually really, really successful in that way. So it actually works out quite well. And with this sort of subway, I also tried to, like, I didn't really use any sort of anarchy to like intersect the lines. Even though it could have, it wouldn't really matter. But like the subway, by that I mean like the subway tunnel actually like dips down under the other ones, because it got pretty complex when we started getting all of the lines coming in here, because there's just so many coming into one spot. Trying to get the tunnels to like go past each other, it did get a little difficult, but it worked. It worked out in the end. Yeah, so this allows people to pretty much get anywhere in the city via the public transportation system. There are a few spots that maybe are a little uncovered just because they're sort of in between the hubway and then like the spokes. So then there's no real way to get to the subway stations. I mean, you could walk, but I don't know. I don't know if we'll add any more public transportation, because after we've done this, we have like the diagonals and the up and down, and then we do a big loop around the outside with two directions as well. Also, you can see our population is now up to 45,000 people. So it is really, really starting to get going, which is good. Which is also why we really did need to build the subway network. That was pretty important to get going. Otherwise, we would have a slight bit of an issue with just trying to get people around. Because the thing is, we're never really going to solve the issue of the amount of trucks on the road or the delivery vans, but we can, at best, try and minimize the number of cars on the road, because if people start using public transport or even walking, and I did some citywide policies as well, like I did the encourage biking policy, and we might even go around and maybe we should add bike lanes to a lot of the roads just to really actually encourage biking, especially if we encourage biking between the areas that don't have public transport. If we get them to like bike to a station, that would actually be really, really good. So this all now connects up, and that is our subway network. And I think, do I do the loop in this time lapse? I'm not sure that I do. I guess we'll see. If not, I think I'm describing the loop there. You know what? Let's go ahead and jump into the game, and I'll show you where the city is at now, because we've actually gone a little bit further than this time lapse. So this is where the city is up to now. You can see a lot of this section has actually now upgraded to all skyscrapers, and it is really starting to fill in. So we're up to 61,000 people, and there's still much more to go as well. Like all of this over here is still housing, so that needs to grow up. And you can see what I mean about this interchange just taking up so much space. Like, because it has these weird angles as well, it's really hard to get roads in there. So that's something I do want to change. That needs to change up completely. Now, the other stuff that's going on is just the traffic as well. So if we have a look at it, it gets a little bit more difficult. Oh yeah, so that's the looping subway line that goes all the way around, and actually works pretty well. So it's quite good. So traffic flow is actually 76%. So it's actually pretty good. All the red sort of just indicates heavy traffic. There are some areas that we can improve, like this road here. There's obviously a lot of people just coming straight down this way, like just come down this road. So this road is clearly not big enough for the amount of traffic that we have on it. And while we don't have the room to make the road wider or physically larger, we could probably turn it into a one-way road and then have, you know, the other direction over here instead or something like that. I don't know why that road doesn't go down here. Oh, probably just because there'll be too many intersections. But we could take this road, for example, down here and then like that. And then this one, oh, this one comes down here, then this one goes back up or something. So that's something we can do and try and sort that out. Yeah, and again, this is empty because I think it's being rezoned potentially. Oh no, I haven't. Okay, well, it probably should be. So this was where I was doing a lot of the development. We're trying to get things to work like roundabouts and that, but it just never did. So, and then a lot of these empty areas are where I've just recently demolished some stuff that is going to come back in eventually when the demand pops up. Because at the moment, the demand, we're sort of waiting for that to go, and we have a little bit of space up the top there as well. Oh, and this is something that I did. So this I built in the live stream, and this wasn't in the time lapse. So it is a square about with the Arc de Triomphe in the middle, because I wanted it to be a roundabout. Don't get me wrong, I wanted it to be a roundabout. We tried it. It turned out to be way more difficult than just, like, we built it and then we did tunnels and it just didn't really work. So instead we did a square about, and it actually works pretty well. Like, it's not ideal, but it does work. I think there's not too much traffic through here that's causing any issues. And again, you can see just how many people are actually walking through the city now, especially with the subway stations. which if we have a look at in public transport, 6,486 people per week are using it. And you can even see these platforms here with how many people are there. So let's have a look at our lines here. Oh yeah, so these are the... you can read some of these lines here. We named those in the live stream as well. So the most popular line is the conga line, which no surprises there, am I right? So that has 1,500 people, I guess, per week on it, which is pretty good. And I think we have a good number of trains running on it too. There's not too many, there's not too little. We seem to be handling it quite well. So that is the one tile city so far. And I want to do a bit more on this because I think this, even though like it's physically pretty much filled, we've still got a bit of space there. We do need to redevelop a lot of it. Like all of this needs to redevelop. This can eventually go. I'm still waiting for this stupid garbage dump to empty. It's been there for so long. We need to get rid of that. It's nearly gone. So there's a lot of stuff that we can still do here. And then the population is still going to keep going up because there's a lot more high density that needs to come in and all that kind of stuff. So then that means, then it sort of leads into the, you know, then we're going to manage the traffic and figure out the best way to make it all flow nicely, especially with some of these roads here are becoming the busiest. But yeah, that is the city, the one tile city. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time, and have an awesome day.